Have you ever thought about your inner world, your mind and emotions, as maybe a set of different rooms, each with its own job on your wellness journey? It's an interesting idea, especially if you're focused on personal growth or maybe if you're a practitioner or even developing wellness products. Today we're doing a deep dive into something called Glass House. It's a framework, really, for understanding and navigating that internal world. And no, we're not talking about actual glass buildings. It's metaphorical space just for cultivating well-being.
Exactly. And what we're drawing on today are materials that describe a kind of glasshouse wellness virtual environment. So we'll be looking at these different metaphorical spaces, these rooms, and really trying to unpack what they're for, not just abstract ideas, but actual tools.
Right, and that's really the mission here for this deep dive. We want to get practical. How can this glasshouse model actually help with personal growth, with processing emotions, and also for the professionals listening, how might this framework, change or enhance how they guide people? Okay, so let's get into it. What's the core concept, the big idea behind Glasshouse?
Well, the fundamental idea is actually quite simple, but it has layers. It uses this metaphor of separate spaces inside a larger glass house to stand for different parts of your inner experience. Think of it like creating these accessible mental places you can actively go to inside yourself. The main goal really is to set up spots for storing positive feelings, helpful tools you pick up along the way, and at the same time have a structured way to deal with and archive negative stuff, old tools that don't work anymore. It's about unburdening yourself, promoting positive growth, and basically building a sense of home inside yourself. The source actually calls it our glasshouse home.
Our glasshouse home.
Yeah.
I like that. It sounds intentional, like building something deliberate inside.
Yeah.
And it seems like safety, security, that's got to be foundational.
Absolutely. Safety and grounding are key themes that pop up again and again in the description. They're presented as really core objectives. You need that stable internal environment first, right? Before you can do the potentially tough work of exploring emotions or thoughts without feeling completely overwhelmed or unsafe.
Like setting up base camp before you climb the mountain.
Exactly like that, a secure base camp.
Okay, so this glass house has different rooms, these metaphorical spaces. Where do you first enter? Let's talk about the welcome lobby.
Right, the welcome lobby. Imagine walking into a space that's specifically designed to help you transition inside. It's described as bright, open, airy, soft, natural light, comfy seats. There's even mention of a calming water feature, a sense of gentle movement, flow. It all points towards tranquility.
Sounds deliberately calming. What's its main function then?
It's got a few jobs. It's the first stop, obviously, a place to get your bearings in your inner landscape. Crucially, it's for grounding, arriving in the present moment, and also for setting intentions before you decide where else you want to go within your glass house. Functionally, it's like a central hub, too. It connects mentally to all the other rooms.
Okay, so you start in the lobby, get grounded. Where might you go next? The greenhouse sounds interesting. Evokes growth.
It does. The greenhouse is pictured as this really vibrant, lush place, packed with diverse plants, flowers, sunlight streaming through the glass. The whole vibe is about growth, renewal, transformation, things changing and evolving. And interestingly, the source even hints that maybe there could be sections within the greenhouse for different emotions, like a sunny spot for joy, maybe a quieter, shadier area for sadness or reflection.
Fascinating. So what kind of inner work happens there in the greenhouse?
Its main purpose is for directly exploring and processing your emotions. It's the space you go to connect with feelings, figure out your underlying needs. The nurturing environment is meant to encourage self-compassion, make it feel safe to acknowledge, maybe even release emotional blocks. And its connections are important too, back to the welcome lobby if you need to reground, and eventually, potentially, to the archive for emotions that have been processed.
That makes a lot of sense. Emotions needing tending. Like plants.
Okay.
Okay, what about the lighthouse? Spelled Lighthhaus. That name strongly suggests guidance, right?
Definitely. The lighthouse feels quite different. Picture a tall, cylindrical building, like a lighthouse, with a rotating beam of light. That image itself suggests stability, clear direction, seeing things from a higher perspective. The description also mentions maybe having a map or seeing a starry sky inside, again reinforcing that theme of navigation, finding your way.
So if the greenhouse is for feelings, what's the lighthouse for?
The lighthouse is where you'd go when you're seeking clarity. Clarity about your goals, maybe your core values, your overall direction or purpose. It's also intended as a mental space that helps with problem-solving skills, tapping into your inner wisdom, accessing information or guidance. That gut feeling or inner knowing. Like the greenhouse, it connects back to the welcome lobby, and the source mentions a link to something called the incubator, but we don't have much detail on that one.
Okay, so we have welcoming, emotional exploration, clarity. Now, the panic room. The name alone tells you this is about the tougher stuff.
Yes, the panic room is very specifically designed as a safe place to confront difficulties. But what's interesting is how it's described safe, but also intentionally a bit challenging. The idea isn't to make it easy, but to create a space where you can build your capacity for resilience and kind of stretch yourself safely. It mentions things like adjustable lighting and sound, so you could maybe control the intensity, and symbolic tools for facing fears, like a mirror for honest looking, or maybe a labyrinth to symbolize navigating complex issues. And very importantly, it has a direct vacuum chute to the archive.
A vacuum chute. That sounds very specific. Well, what's the main purpose here?
Its core role is providing that safe yet challenging container. A place to confront and process difficult emotions, yes, but also to really look at limiting beliefs that might be holding you back. And ultimately to build courage and resilience by facing those things. Its connection to the greenhouse makes sense, difficult feelings might come up there, and then you might consciously move to the panic room for deeper work. There's also a mention of a link to a tool shed. Again, not much detail suggesting maybe there's specific resources there for dealing with challenges. And that vacuum chute is key. It's like a metaphorical pathway for sending resolved trauma, the stuff you've worked through, directly to the archive.
So once you've really grappled with something difficult, you can sort of intentionally send it away.
Yeah.
To storage.
That's the idea. And the source material really highlights a critical function here. The panic room lets you revisit harmful memories or tough experiences without messing up the positive vibe you've cultivated in the greenhouse. You can deal with the hard stuff safely without it bleeding over and contaminating the places meant for nurturing and growth.
Right. It prevents that kind of emotional contamination.
Exactly.
This whole glasshouse idea offers such a visual, structured way to think about our inner landscape. How do you actually use these spaces in practice?
Well, the source material gives some pointers, both for individuals doing their own work and for practitioners helping others. For personal work like visioning or just processing things, the idea is you'd consciously choose a space. Maybe the lighthouse if you're trying to set goals, or the greenhouse if you're exploring feelings about something specific. And then you'd mentally engage with the space, its qualities, maybe imagine using its tools to break down complex thoughts, sort things out.
So it's really about active participation, not just passively observing your thoughts.
Absolutely. You're encouraged to be active in there, pay attention to how you feel, what comes up in each space. And if you have a breakthrough, gain some new insight, maybe you metaphorically check out a new tool, a new skill or perspective. Or maybe you return an old tool, an old coping mechanism perhaps that you don't need anymore. It highlights that your inner resources are dynamic, they change.
And how does this work when a wellness practitioner is guiding someone?
The practitioner acts as a guide, really, facilitating the person's journey through their glasshouse. They might start in the welcome lobby, help the person ground and feel safe, then maybe guide them to the greenhouse to explore an emotion. If something deeper like trauma comes up, the practitioner would guide them towards the panic room very carefully to unpack those barriers or triggers. The goal is always to support the person in processing these things and then metaphorically archiving them in a way that feels resolved and promotes healing. Practitioners also help people identify and really feel positive core emotions in the greenhouse, making sure there's time to let those sink in.
What happens if someone gets overwhelmed, gets triggered during this inner work?
Safety first. The protocol emphasizes containment. If someone gets triggered or starts regressing, the advice is to gently, non-judgmentally, suggest going back to the panic room. The key is that it's okay to go back there as many times as needed to work through that specific trigger. This prevents those difficult feelings from flooding the person or making them associate the greenhouse, the positive space, with negativity. And the practitioner might also gently offer different perspectives, challenge maybe destructive reactions that come up, always framing the panic room as the safe place to handle that immediate distress.
That safe container aspect, the ability to return, sounds so important. The material also mentioned feeling stuck. Any guidance there?
Yeah, when someone feels stuck, the suggestion is to gently guide them to reflect. When was the first time you felt this way? The idea is to explore if the current stuck feeling is maybe linked to an older, unresolved issue or memory, an original trauma, perhaps. Now, if they're just reflecting and not triggered, they might use a resilience tool in one of the other spaces. But if that reflection does trigger a strong emotion, then the recommendation is straight back to the panic room. Contain it, process it safely there. And throughout all this, there's this constant reminder, healing is a journey. It's ongoing, not a final destination you arrive at.
This framework really feels like it could have ripples beyond just individual therapy. What about implications for the wider wellness field? Practitioners, product developers?
For practitioners, absolutely. The glass house concept could really enhance therapeutic visualization. It gives such a clear, structured metaphor, a shared language almost, for guiding clients through their inner world during imagery work. Imagine guiding someone explicitly, let's go to the greenhouse now, or perhaps we can explore that feeling safely in the panic room. It makes it more tangible.
That's a really strong application. And what about designing actual wellness spaces? Virtual ones, or even physical buildings?
The principles could definitely inspire design. You could envision a VR experience that actually builds these spaces, right? The airy lobby, the lush greenhouse, the focused lighthouse. Even physical wellness centers could take cues. A welcoming reception area reflecting the lobby's qualities. Therapy rooms with plants evoking the greenhouse. Quiet reflection rooms like the lighthouse.
And for people creating wellness products?
Yeah.
Apps, tools, resources.
Oh, there's a lot there. The Glasshouse framework provides a really rich conceptual base for developing targeted tools. You could create guided meditations specifically for the welcome lobby, focusing on grounding, or journaling prompts designed for the greenhouse exploring emotions. Maybe goal-setting exercises tied to the lighthouse concept. And for the panic room, maybe digital tools for practicing grounding techniques or safely challenging negative thoughts. The possibilities are quite broad.
It really does seem to loop back to that idea of building a better me, cultivating those inner skills.
Absolutely, that's central to it. The Glasshouse framework is fundamentally about facilitating that personal growth, developing inner resources, the whole process navigating the spaces, identifying and processing challenges, actively cultivating positives. It directly supports that journey toward becoming more resilient, more integrated. You're essentially acting as the architect of your own inner environment to support your well-being.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things we should take away from this Glasshouse model?
I think the key takeaway is that it offers this really structured yet imaginative way to engage with your inner world. It gives you a mental map almost with these distinct spaces, the grounding welcome lobby, the emotional greenhouse, the clarifying lighthouse, the challenging but safe panic room. And it really emphasizes that well-being is an active process. It's about consciously managing your internal spaces, your inner places.
And it has value whether you're working on yourself or helping others.
Exactly. Whether it's for your own personal wellness journey or if you're a practitioner guiding others, it provides a really useful lens, a way to understand and facilitate emotional and mental health. And like we discussed, for product developers too, it's a conceptual goldmine for creating genuinely helpful wellness tools.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. Take a moment and think about your own inner glass house. What might it look like right now? Which spaces could maybe use a bit more of your attention today? What tools might you want to cultivate? Or maybe what old ones is it time to mindfully archive? Definitely a thought-provoking framework to carry with you on your wellness journey.